It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're reacting and having a discussion about a video from Dookrai. So the original video will be linked in the description, as you can see, even the channel on the screen there. He gave us a video that he actually made, so check out his channel for the Scream lore videos. I have to say they are fantastic. Dookrai's got a video for us titled 22 change ideas for Michael Myers Dead by Daylight. I'm very interested in hearing from a Michael Myers main on Dead by Daylight what the changes should be, considering that there are some changes planned for the future for the shape in DVD. So let's go ahead and dive in.
So with the news that the shape is going to be getting some base kit changes in an upcoming patch, I thought it'd be fun to share a couple of my change ideas I would like to see from a boy, my main, Michael Audrey Myers.
Audrey Myers.
I have 22 change ideas I would like to share with you guys today, and I'm not petitioning for all these changes to come because there's a lot, and also it might make Michael a little OP, but I just wanted to throw it out there and see what you guys think about it. So let me know in the...
And I'm about to let Dookrai know in this video, so let's go ahead and begin. Let's see what the first change is. Oh yeah, I'm excited about this one. I am excited to talk about this one. I'm pretty excited about it.
But he wants at this point, and that is a model rework to Myers, because Michael looks very weird visually in many different ways. The main one being that he's just a little too big in my opinion. Michael and Dead by...
Pause. But for real, I do completely agree with Dookrai here, who had graciously suggested to talk about his video, and I have to say I completely agree. Anybody who's paid attention to the original movie, which is this is the license that we have, obviously, is the very first 1978 Halloween film. We know that Myers is not this buff. Like, dude was hitting the gym in the fog. You know what I'm saying? He definitely has been absolutely deadlifting incredible amounts of survivors in the fog, that he somehow had gained incredible muscle mass that was not accurate to the actual source material in the slightest. I have to say, I mean, the strength makes sense, but the muscle mass didn't really make a lot of sense. And I also have to say that even like the simple things like his hand when you like go for a hit in tier 3, you know, the swing when like also animation, you can notice that his right hand sleeve is a bit like polygon kind of PS2 graphics, I like to call it. It's definitely looks very behind, especially compared to characters like Chucky, that is a more recent release that is extremely detailed, extremely accurate to the source material, or even maybe earlier licenses that you could say. I can't really remember if we had a big license that was right after, because Freddy, I even think Freddy did get slightly altered, I would say, in the past until now. And we actually, the previous time we actually seen a licensed character get at least a nice new fresh coat of paint was Quentin from the Nightmare on Elm Street license, which we noticed like from obviously from back then to when he got changed, he definitely looks a lot better. He was definitely I think behavior back then was, I guess, a bit more keen on changing those kinds of things for the characters. I don't know how it is now. I don't know if they're ever going to change the aesthetics for Myers at all. And I actually had talked about this, and I actually heard about it in the past, that some people said that maybe they don't have the license for the mask itself. But if you look in the bottom left of Myers' power, you have the accurate mask design in his power icon. So why they didn't translate that into the actual character design is kind of confusing, if you ask me. I'm not sure how that works, but let's continue.
Daylight is a big boy. He's like 7'5", built like a truck, which is very weird because it's not very accurate to the movie that he does come from, which is Halloween 1978. In that movie, he's average height, very skinny, baggy ass overalls. You know, he looks like a normal dude. but in Dead by Daylight, he's a walking steroid and is just a very off-putting. So if they were to shrink down Michael a little bit, make him a little skinnier, and also a better mask, obviously, I think he would look great. Now,
I completely agree with that as well. I think the Call of Duty representation for how Myers looks, I would say works. I mean, if they were to do something anywhere similar to that, like maybe really reduce a lot of that sort of at least aesthetically reduce some of that muscle mass to make him look a little bit more like kind of like a regular guy, you know, that would make a lot more sense. I would say, I personally think that would be a lot nicer if they could also fix that issue. It's like, it's such a minor detail, but like when you're using the prestige weapon, when you're in tier 3 and you'll get like these the drips of the tomato sauce, we'll say, and a lot of like one of the drops actually like floats. It doesn't actually it's not actually on the weapon itself, so it's like a floating droplet that infinitely drips. And it's like, it's one of those things where like when you see it you can't unsee it. So like that is something that I completely agree with here. Completely have to agree. Can we please get an update to Myers, our boy, please? Like we need something for that.
Biggest counter argument I could think of for that is that it would kind of take away from Michael's stalking capabilities, because if he was shorter it'd be a lot harder to stalk over loops, which I don't think is actually true, because Michael's camera is in his like top chest area. So if they were to shrink down Michael, make his camera actually level up with his face, I don't think it would be that big of a difference.
Considering how DBD is, I would assume that maybe they don't really alter the height, but maybe they can at least keep the height, but maybe make him look a little like less muscular, you know what I mean? I don't know how the code works. I know DBD is really funky with how they do certain things and stuff like that, so I don't know if they needed the model to retain that height for whatever reason at all. But I will say that at least like if they keep him tall, at least just don't, you know, just try to fix and update his like his aesthetics, man. Like it's kind of insane.
Something else that would make making Michael's character model a little smaller would help out with is his stealth capability, because Michael being so big, he's so easily able to be seen across the entire map, especially against good survivors. It's kind of frustrating at times, because I've been in situations where I'm stalking it from a very weird angle halfway across the map and survivors can still see me clear as day. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was just a little smaller, I think I could get away with this.
Why don't, like, I was also thinking about like Ghostface in this conversation. Like I would say that Ghostface is not a very buff character. He's you know, pretty skinny dude and in the game, and considering his character model as well and stuff like that, I would say that it would be a lot more closer to how Myers could look in terms of the, you know, model with how he's built, because Myers is pretty bulky, and you know, he's supposed to be a stealth killer, and like Dookrai is stating here, like it's almost as if like it kind of counteracts the stealth aspect, considering he's just so bulky. So it's kind of insane, you know?
For my next change, and something else I think would really help out with Michael's stealth, and that is to hide his red stain when he's actively stalking a survivor. Now, this wouldn't matter in tier 1 because obviously he doesn't have a red stain, but when you're in tier 2 and you're trying to get as much stalk as possible, especially if you have like the lock of hair, eerie tuft of hair, tombstone, all that stuff, it'd be really nice to be able to get rid of that red light beaming out of your face. Theoretically speaking, I think it could be the difference between getting a tier 3 and not. I think it's that big of a difference.
Honestly, I kind of like the idea that there is a sort of toggleable red stain kind of going on, because we like I've said in a different I don't know if I said it on stream or video, but Myers is considered a stealth killer, but he's only stealthy for the very beginning of the game. So at least having the capability to press stalk and actually turn off your red stain would at least add another stealth aspect to the character that doesn't really exist currently. Because the stealth killer sort of bracket, I guess you could say, or umbrella within the game is very, very loose. I would say it does not, it's like a catch-all term that covers a lot of different characters just because they have undetectable in their kit. But I don't even think that Dredge is even considered a stealth killer, despite the fact that half the game he is undetectable because of Nightfall. But Myers is considered a stealth killer, when he only has undetectable for one portion of the game for the whole match. So having a toggleable red stain would actually kind of lean more into a stealth aspect. Maybe it could also lean into some mind games. You know what I mean? What if you're holding stock around a corner as you're mind gaming, and you might be able to get a hit or something like that, you know? That could be an interesting aspect that could add a little bit of something to Myers to have a little bit more depth to using the tools provided, I would say, even. And probably even furthermore, probably for maybe when you're stalking from far away or something like that too.
And keep in mind, when I say actively stalking, I don't mean like you can just hold your stalk while you're going around a corner at like Shack or something like that and just completely hide your red stain for mind gaming. I don't mean like that. I mean, when you're actively staring at a survivor, it just disappears. I think that'd be really
Damn. So I had a different idea of what I thought it was than what was actually stated in the video. I think we sort of see the point differently, I would say, with the change like this. That's interesting to see. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think it should be like how I suggested, where if you hold it down, you'll be able to use it as like a mind game or something like that? Or would you prefer it to specifically be only when during stalking a survivor that it does that? Let me know.
helpful. For my third change idea, and I actually got this idea from Stalky Boy in his interview with the fake Banette, but instead of making it as 99 our tier 3, make it so we actually have an activation button instead. Because I know I've had times, and a lot of Myers mains can probably relate to this, that I just accidentally pop my tier 3, especially if I have like the double stalking speed add-ons with the J. Myers Memorial and the Geosternal add-on. Like I've had times where I've accidentally popped my tier 3 and just completely wasted it, or I just didn't have it in a certain situation when I
That is an interesting point. I don't think we've really seen a character that really does something like this besides like Chucky, in my opinion. But I think of Ghostface in that sense, and Ghostface kind of goes through that too. So he does have to kind of deal with that like sort of accidental 99 to 100% stalking and end up kind of wasting it. But Myers, I think, will benefit a lot more from this because Myers is not able to split the stalking in any way, shape, or form. He has to when he activates his expose, it applies to everyone at once because it's a map wide expose that he has on everybody. And so having an activation button makes the most sense to me. I do think that it also could add a little bit of some depth when trying to get tombstones and stuff like that. You might have to get the right timing of activation of your tier 3 and also getting the grab at the right time as well, depending on if they decide to do that. Now obviously, as we've seen with activations, it might be clunky. We've seen this with the Freddy rework. When you're swapping modes and stuff like that, it might be a little bit clunky, or it could be like Chucky where it's seamless. You know, you just press it and it works. So, you know, honestly, who knows? You know, like I really will say that if done right, this could be an interesting thing. It could really add a lot to the character that we probably wouldn't have otherwise.
think about it, but my idea is to make it so anytime Michael tiers down from tier 3 to tier 2, he gains 5% extra stalking speed, stackable up to 25%. So by the time you've popped at least 5 tier 3s, you have a base kit J. Myers Memorial. That'd be a godsend in my opinion. I think it'd be super rewarding, especially for experienced Myers mains who can pop multiple tier 3s in any given match. And also I think it would kind of mitigate the whole Myers gets weaker as the match goes along, because for those who don't know, Michael is the only character in the game that can actually completely lose his power. It doesn't happen much anymore because they've doubled the stalking cap, but he's still the only character that can actually just completely lose it. So instead of Michael getting weaker as the match goes along, make it so he's getting actually stronger as the match.
I completely agree with this idea. It's even more accurate to the source material because as we know that at the beginning of the movies, for any Halloween movie, you know that Myers starts off pretty slow paced. He's usually just kind of lurking in the shadows. And then as he progressively goes through the match, or I guess the movie, I mean, he gets stronger and stronger until eventually he's taking everybody out and stuff like that. And the power works like that, right? Because like you start off with undetectable, you move slower, you don't have really as much lunge and stuff like that. Then you kind of build up, and then you're at tier 2, and then you build up to tier 3, and then that's when you're the biggest threat, and stuff like that. So I feel that that would be a lot more closer to the source material, and I do agree that that would be a fantastic change, and it would lean into that because his power is very focused on building, right? It's a lot about, you know, building up your pressure and stuff like that. I would consider Myers a very snowball heavy M1 killer, if you ask me. I mean, the fact that you can just pop a tier 3 at the right time and then be able to down multiple people in succession, just if you're able to just get the right spacing and timing, I mean, it really leads into that. Now that, like, if you had a base kit mechanic that were to give you a stacking 5% bonus up to 25%, you would actually be able to increase your stalking speed probably up by by 50%, which obviously will probably make you run out of your power a lot sooner. But at the very least, you know, I would imagine that by the time that even happens, you should already be winning the game at that point, or at least be heading toward the end of the match regardless. I don't think it would affect the balancing that heavily. I think this is a fantastic change. Now this one is interesting. There's a point here that was to increase the stalking movement speed. This I want to hear a lot about because I wasn't really a Myers player that really believed this, but I'm curious to see what Dookrai has to say as a Myers main. I am on the road to P100 Myers myself, so I want to hear if movement speed is like secretly really good.
Two wrapped up into one, but my idea is to make the jewelry box and the jewelry add-on base kit. If you don't know what those are, they're basically just the add-ons that increase Michael's movement speed while stalking by 20 and 30% for a total of 50%. Now obviously these are not going to give you that much of an advantage. I'd rather bring extra stalking speed or extra tier 3, but stalking with these two add-ons feels so much smoother. You're able to stalk around rocks a lot better, stalk around corners a lot better. It just feels so good to have these two add-ons equipped that I would love to have them base kit. I'll put the numbers on screen right now, what that would do to both the passive and the active stalking movement speed. But moving on,
honestly, making the stalking movement speed much higher, I think is honestly a fantastic idea. I don't think that this would be game breaking at all. I think that Myers could benefit from something like this, especially because in my opinion, it's just a quality of life change that really is not going to affect Myers so heavily where people are going to somehow see some kind of surge in power for Myers by any means. I also think that it would opens up the add-ons to be more unique, because instead of having movement speed add-ons while stalking, maybe they could be something else, you know, for whatever the ideas that they concoct in the studio, obviously. But you know, I probably don't play enough Myers to know exactly what kind of cool add-ons we can get. But if I were to kind of guess off the top of my head, maybe we can get something. We could take a little bit of a page from Pyramid Head's book, maybe get a longer lunge, or within tier 3, or maybe increase the vaulting speed in tier 3, or something like that. You know, I think that would be interesting. Like, you just make those add-ons a part, like, instead of it being those two, maybe make one vault speed and one lunging, or make them both the same. I don't, you know, make them both have the lunge and the vaulting speed or something. I think those would be really good ideas.
Priority system. For those who don't know, whenever Michael is stalking more than one survivor, the speed at which you stalk is determined by whoever is closest to you. Now, this would have benefited Michael greatly before he got his buff, but now that he stalks a lot faster from afar than up close, it kind of hinders his power.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dookrai, because now I can show you guys what I'm talking about. If you're looking at the knife right here, hopefully you can see it. You can, like, I don't know if my mouse is gonna show it, but right here. So right here, you can see the droplet floating. This has been irritating me for so long. Like, it annoys me as a Myers player. You know, I absolutely enjoy, like, just putting on different cosmetic combinations and things like that. And trying to use the prestige knife, like, this is just annoying. Like, you're in tier 3 and you see this just floating droplet. I'm telling you, man, It annoys the crap out of me, man. It's insane. Absolutely insane. But I do like this idea as well, saying that the stalking speed for the furthest survivor. I do think that this is a good idea. We do see that, or I believe still in the base kit, where like if you're further away, you're gonna get an increased stalking speed compared to up close now. Which back in the day, it used to be if you were up close, it was faster, and then far away, it was slower. Now it's more currently much closer to the source material, but being able to have it prioritized, I would say, you know, considering DVD's spaghetti code, as we like to call it, I'm not sure if they would be able to do it, but I like the concept. I think it's a very fun idea. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tier 1 changes
involved, but my idea is to either make it so Michael has a normal lunge in tier 1 or is able to get bloodlust in tier 1. Now there's really not much to say about this other than just increasing the lethality of one of the weakest characters in the game being tier 1 Myers, which is,
yeah, believe it or not, for those of you that are unaware, tier 1 Myers is a character that has a like the slowest movement speed, I believe, in the game currently, which is next to Nurse, and I believe is next to Pyramid Head in his power. So when he's dropping his Rites of Judgment, he also moves at 4.2 meters per second, which is also the Myers, which actually I think they changed that. I believe Myers, besides Scratch Mirror, moves at 4.4 now. But assuming we're talking about, you know, this more so referring to old Myers, but the you know, Scratch Mirror and the Nurse and stuff like that usually, I believe, are moving at a 4.2 meters per second, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and also is not able to gain bloodlust and has a shorter lunge than all the characters in the game. So objectively, probably even weaker than Skull Merchant at this rate, you could argue. But obviously with the changes to the base kit for Myers, like maybe not as much. I think the lunge is still, like, even though I think you are 4.4 now, I don't believe you still have a longer lunge anymore, like still. So I would agree that maybe making the lunge normal at tier 1 or giving bloodlust, either one would probably be fine. I would, if I had to choose though, I would say normal lunge, because bloodlust in tier 1, I feel like might, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't really affect the balancing that much. I just wonder how it would be used, but I think normal lunge, I think I would have, if I had to choose. Like bloodlust, I can be all right with not having on the tier 1, only because like you can just tier out when you're playing with other add-ons. Like if you're playing with specifically Scratch Mirror, I would assume you're kind of already going in with the mentality that I'm gonna be stuck in tier 1 the whole game anyway, and I'm not gonna have bloodlust regardless. It's a more hit and run focused style anyway, so you're not gonna be in chase in tier 1, unless you want to lose. So I would say normal lunge would be a lot cooler, you know, and it would actually make him kind of scary, you know, I'm not gonna lie, that would actually be pretty good.
Of increasing Michael's lunge in both tier 2 and tier 3. Considering that the shape does not have a chase power whatsoever, and the survivors are smart and just spread out and pre-drop every single pallet, there's really not a lot that Michael can do. And if they were to just increase his lunge just a little bit, I think it would really help him out in chase. And
I do agree, and also we can get a nice shot of the PS2 graphics, like Michael Myers' hand he's got going on. But regardless, I do agree with this. Increasing the lunge in tier 2 and tier 3 would actually be quite nice. Maybe increasing it by a smidge so that's a little bit longer. Myers, like objectively speaking, does have a faster vault speed in tier 3, a longer lunge in tier 3. Personally, I would say that it would be nice to have more focus on the tier 3 so that the tier 3 is more scary. I guess more than it already is, at least from my perspective. Now, as a side note, I would honestly want like the ability to vault faster and lunge further on Ghostface. Personally, I think that would make him a lot more lethal in chase, considering you already have to take the time out to stalk and expose and not get revealed with the buggy reveal mechanics. at the very least, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with the increased vault speed and an increased lunge, personally. But that's just me. However, increasing the already longer lunge, I would say not. Yeah, I mean, this is still an M1 killer. I know that there might be some survivors that may disagree with this, but keep in mind that this is still an M1 killer at the end of the day. Like, he's still going to have to hit twice, and he's still not very strong. It's not like he can close the gap very quickly unless he has a build dedicated to do so. So overall, I would say that the character's balance will not be that crazy. It won't be a clown situation where a lot of the average or low level MMR players are going to be complaining, which unfortunately is the side effect when you do kind of buff up a lot of the killers. Ooh, this is a spicy one. This is a spicy one, so I'm gonna go ahead and dive into this one, and then we'll.
Idea is to actually make Tombstone base kit. Now, before you go into the comment section and just burn me alive, hear me out for a couple of seconds, because I'm not a guy who actually likes Tombstone all that much. I actually think it's probably one of the most boring add-ons in the entire game.
I'm not gonna lie, I completely disagree with Dookrai. I personally love Tombstone. I think it's my #1 favorite add-on in the game when it comes to Myers, I guess. I would say, to me, it's the most hilarious and the most lore accurate Myers thing I've ever heard in a video game, where you can just sit there and choke somebody out with it, like, just off of tier 3 alone. To me, is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. I find it extremely lore accurate, extremely funny. For me personally, I love it. I think it's great. And now, do I use it that much? No. But I honestly should, because it brings me joy, and that's what we should be focusing on when we play DVD. But besides that, okay, besides that, I understand that the vast majority may not like it, you know what I mean? So, you know, I'm willing to take an L on that if it does get switched out or changed or something like that. Unfortunately, you know, it's okay. You know, at this point, anything that I would say a lot of things in the game that you do enjoy will most likely get changed, destroyed, nerfed when it applies to killer, at least. So at this point, you know, if it gets changed, we just have to accept it at this point. I mean, you know, I mean, like, and this is just a side note, like I had really enjoyed Old Machine Learning, and I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I loved it. I would use it, and I thought I was really able to map out how to use it, how many hits I can get, how many downs I can get, or whatever have you. I even used it with Ghostface, and I was able to make him just incredible and not garbage for once. And obviously it got nerfed, and then now I just don't use it anymore because it just reduced a lot of its lethality. It went from I think 60 seconds of I don't remember if it was 60 seconds or 50 seconds or something like that, but now it's reduced to 45 seconds of just like 10% haste. So, and I'm like, so I don't use it anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's not the same. It's not as lethal as it could have been anymore. I liked it a lot, and yeah, it's not great. And I don't use it anymore, as I have said. So, but anyway, I am a Tombstone enjoyer. Let's get into it.
Mainly just because it just doesn't offer a lot of interactiveness on both sides. Like for Michael, you're not really doing much other than just staring at survivors for an extended amount of time, and for survivors, they're either getting taken out of the game immediately or they jump into a locker to avoid the tombstone.
I will say, in my opinion, at least from my perspective, like, I don't believe Myers has a lot of interactability in general, in my opinion, when it comes down to the survivors. Because you're like how Dookrai has mentioned himself, we are just kind of staring at them. So, like, I don't really think that there's a lot that we can really do to make that more interesting for either side. I mean, like, they do end up having to hide or try to be out of view, but a lot of the time you're just, you know, you're pretty much defaulting to, I have to stare at them for a while. I build up my power, and then I just kind of play M1 killer for a little while until it's the right time to pop the tier 3. So, at least from my perspective, usual sort of gameplay loop when it comes to Myers. but I do kind of understand that as a concept, it's not exactly the most interactive, because you either, you know, you go in, you're staring at them, and then you end up getting the tier 1. You completely eliminate them, which I still find hilarious. I think it's comedy gold, but regardless, it eliminates a survivor, and then you kind of continue on and do the same thing again. Let's continue.
There's really not much in the interactiveness on both sides, and my idea actually tries to mitigate that a little bit, and here is my idea. Once you have reached tier 3 6 times, you are now able to instantly kill the most stalked survivor. Now this could be just any survivor.
I like this idea. I've actually heard this as a concept in the past before. I like this idea quite a bit. I was actually thinking about it from like a pyramid head standpoint, where you're able to actually do a Mori on a survivor that's already been hooked twice, and if they're tormented, you can do a Mori, and it's a pretty quick one. Like you just kind of like chop them with your knife, and then you move on. And I honestly had to say it's I think one of the fastest Moris in the game, and one of my favorites as well. And I do like the concept that we're rewarded in some way for using our abilities and stuff like that, and trying to play, to, you know, do our jobs. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to hook them and get our power and stuff like that to work, and get downs and things like that. So to have like things within their base kits of characters to give us something is nice. So to have reached tier 3 6 times, I gotta say that it's interesting. I'm not sure if there's enough stock within the match to do so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously anybody who's, you know, been able to track the data and stuff like that would be able to answer that, if it is possible to even like tier 3 6 times or not. I would imagine you might run out. It might shift with add-ons, I don't know. I haven't played Myers enough to be able to do the math equations, but let's continue.
You could have it how it's currently, where you just pop it on anybody's bag and instantly kill them. But I think it's a little bit more fair if you punish the most stalked survivor, because we've all had those teammates that just feed the Myers at the very beginning of the game. They're teabagging, staring him right in the face, letting him stalk them as much as they want, and then he comes around to you, who he has not seen the entire game, pops tier 3 and just takes you out of the game. Not very fair, right? So this kind of mitigates that, makes it so you're actually good.
One thing that I will disagree with when it comes to the somebody who hasn't been stalked at all getting Tombstone is that it kind of shoots the Myers player in the foot, though, because they had used all their stalking on other people, and the only person that's left to actually use or at least gain more stock is now eliminated from the game. So in turn, I would say that there is somewhat of a downside to doing something like that, I would say, when it comes down to actually using your power. Now, is it the highest downside or the highest risk? I would probably disagree, but I would say that there is at least some sort of I guess a cost for taking somebody out who hasn't really been stalked at all. But I get it, though. It is very, I find that to be also pretty funny. I think it's absurd that you can do that in a lot of ways, and I think that's what, to me, it makes it so funny. It's that you just can do that. So it's like, you know, because the game is definitely not very balanced. We obviously know it leans to one side and it's not the killers. So like, at least looking at certain things that killers can do is like kind of funny. I would like, hey, at least there's like, you know, in the back of my mind, I at least say, hey, at least there's something that killers can do that is also a bit ridiculous to kind of even the playing field in a lot of ways. So it's interesting.
Going to get punished if you actually feed the Myers, and the Myers can't befriend one of the survivors. So that's the thing. And then after that, it'll be the second most stalked survivor, the third most stalked survivor, and then the fourth. So theoretically, you could still get Evil Incarnate, but it's just going to be a little more difficult to do so because, you know, you got to find the actual survivor that you want to Mori. And it also adds a little bit of interactiveness for both sides. You're actually going to be able to play out the game before he's able to Mori you. Moving on to the add-on changes, and considering that we're making Tombstone base kit, I've decided to...
So, all right. So I'm going to have the original video linked in the description so you can watch it yourself. You can watch the video yourself and hear the rest of the potential changes that Dookrai is pitching. It's going to be linked in the description. So go ahead and support Dookrai by watching the video. And while you're down there, there's ways to support the channel that are in the description as well if you want to become a member or join the Patreon to support the channel, you can do that. And follow on Twitch and TikTok for, watch me play Kill Alive, also just fun clips and stuff like that. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.